All right, team, today we're going to be working in Transaction Desk. We're going to start with the basics and work our way through adding in contacts, starting transactions, and setting up a transaction so that way you can send it off through Authentisign for signing. To start, you're going to need to go to your tnrealtors.com account and log in through your member login. Once you're logged in, you're going to go into your members portal. Underneath members, on members services, you're going to go to Transaction Desk. Transaction Desk is going to open and everybody's dashboard is going to look a little bit different. That's because you get to personalize your dashboard with the tools that you want on your dashboard. If you are a broker in the office, your dashboard may be in broker view mode. This is a broker dashboard and it may look slightly different than mine depending on how you've set it up. But the broker dashboard allows you to impersonate the agents in the office and also see their transactions that are being worked on and what's closing in the next 7 days, so you can assist your agents as needed. To switch back to agent view, all you have to do is toggle the button on the right hand side. This puts you back in the agent dashboard and now you're working on your files only. As an affiliate broker, you will only have access to the agent dashboard. You will not have the broker view. Let's talk about how to navigate changing the dashboard. On the right hand side, there is a padlock that locks and unlocks this dashboard. Go ahead and click the padlock and it's going to give you a bunch of tools. The tools here are going to either be blue or green. You can drop down as many blue that you'd like. However, you can only drop down 6 green. Now, if you're doing this on your computer, your screen may look really big and may have a lot of room to put a lot of different tools. However, if you're working off an iPad or if you're working off your phone, you may want to reduce your amount of tools on those devices because you're going to need to be able to scroll in stack mode rather than a scattered mode where you have a wide view. You can click and drag your tools anywhere you'd like. Notice as I move this box around, it highlights with the blue in the background. Where the blue in the background is where this can drop and drag. If I wanted to expand the boxes, I simply click on the green arrow on the bottom right and I can expand into the blue-gray shaded area. If you don't need this item, you can click the X to remove it. When you do that, it jumps back up to the top. Notice this create button here on the top toolbar is grayed out. That's because it's placed here on the dashboard. But if I were to click delete and to remove it, the create button is going to turn blue back in the toolbar. Same goes for the create for Authentisign. If I were to remove the Authentisign, it will now jump back to the top. And I can simply now move these around as much as I'd like and place them into the mode that makes the most sense for me and my business. Across the green, these are going to be things where you're going to have a running list of those items. The blue buttons are more of like a shortcut to jump you to those items. For example, if you wanted a shortcut to get you into the create mode where you're creating a transaction, you may want to go ahead and add in the create transaction button to your toolbar. To do so, you click and you drag this down into the box below. If you wanted a button to quickly create Authentisign, which is your e-signing, again, you would click the button and drag it below. And then from there, you can reorganize in any mode that you like. If you wanted to move this, you can. Notice as I stretch it, I can see more items in the list. Otherwise, when it's small, it will give you a rolling scroll bar and you can move up and down to see the items. If you wanted to jump to the full running list, you can simply click on the hyperlinks on the bottom of each of the boxes. This will take you to those selected items. Go ahead and take a moment and add in as many blue as you'd like and as many green as you like. Remember, you can add as many blue, but only 6 green. I'm going to give you a moment to go ahead and drop those down. If you need more time, hit pause. Once you're finished selecting the widgets for your agent dashboard, simply click on the lock button to lock your dashboard back into configuration, so that way you don't accidentally change it. Remember, your padlock is up here on the top right corner. If you wanted to remove an item, simply uncheck your padlock and you can remove said item, move your widgets over, and lock your dashboard back in place. Okay, now let's go ahead and go into the actual navigation dashboard. If you haven't been in Transaction Desk in a while, you might notice some changes. Transaction Desk was bought out by a program called Lone Wolf, and they've started to make some modifications so that way it will match similar to some of their other products. The first change you might notice is here on the left-hand toolbar. There is now a menu item with an arrow that points to the right. This expands and contracts the toolbar for the left-hand side. This is going to bring you into the dashboard, transactions, signings, forms, documents, tasks, and if you're a broker, your broker tools. Contacts, clauses, templates, and partners. Partners is also a new button here in Transaction Desk. Let's go ahead and navigate the forms and library documents. To get to your forms, simply click on the Forms button. Inside of the Forms library, you're going to see forms from 2022 and 2023. This is going to include the commercial forms and the residential forms. Your commercial forms are going to be labeled with a CF in front of the number, and then the residential forms are going to be labeled with an RF in front of the number. Let's go ahead and click on the residential forms. Notice when you open up the residential forms, you're going to see a running list of all of the RF forms with their corresponding form numbers. On the top, on the right-hand side, there's a search bar. In this search bar, go ahead and type in 401. Notice, when you type in 401, you're going to find a CF 401, an RF 401, and if you've ever created a standalone RF 401 purchase and sale agreement, they will fall down below. Go back to the search bar and type in purchase. Notice when you type in the word purchase, it's now finding all of the documents with the word purchase inside of them. This is a very long list in comparison to actually having the 401 typed in. However, if you can't remember what number correlates with the document you're looking for, simply type in a keyword in the search bar and it will find the running list of documents for you. And from here, you can go through the forms list and select the appropriate one. Let's go ahead and click on the RF 401 for purchase and sale agreements. This is going to be a residential form. When you click on this form, it's going to ask you, how do you want to create the new form? This is either going to be by starting a new transaction, creating a new standalone form, or creating a new form to edit the transaction. You can create whichever one you want. Let's go ahead and click on each link and explore what happens. If I were to create a new form and start a new transaction, it's going to give me a toolbar that looks like this. Simply type in the name that correlates with this transaction. This may be the last name of the person that you're working with and the property address that's going to be utilized. If you don't have a property address, this may be just their buyer representation packet. Templates are another part of the transaction that are super helpful. We'll talk about those in a little bit, but if you wanted to select a template, you would have them here. Your broker can also set up office templates. If they do, they will put in which documents the office may require you to have in every file. Your type is going to be either commercial, condo, or residential. Select one that you would like to pretend with. Your import data button is optional. You do not need to use it, and oftentimes when working with a buyer or working with a seller at the beginning, you do not have an MLS input. However, when working with a buyer after they've seen a property, you may have the MLS number. In this case, here are all of the participating MLSs that operate with Transaction Desk. In our case, our MLS here in Middle Tennessee is RealTracs. You can simply click on RealTracs and type in an MLS number that you would like to pull data from. This will pull important data that will automatically autofill in some of the selected forms needed. Down below, because I said that this was a residential sale, it's identifying me as a selling agent. However, you can click on this button and simply select the appropriate box. If you're facilitating the transaction, you would select neither. If you were operating as a dual agent under broker approval, you would be both. I recommend using the wizard. To use the wizard, you can simply check the checkbox. Otherwise, if you wanted to just open this form as a standalone form, you would check Open Form. When you're done, you can click Create. For training purposes, I'm not going to create just yet, so you can close. Let's go ahead and see what happens when you click on Create New Standalone Form. When you create this new standalone form, it's going to open the form directly on your page. This is a blank form. I do not recommend utilizing this if you're trying to create a transaction with additional forms. This is because this is now just floating. It's not attached to a person. It's not attached to a transaction. These are good for the one-off situations, or maybe you want to just open a standalone form so you can simply type some of the data and print this out. To close this, on the top toolbar, you can click Save and Exit. Let's go ahead and find our 401 document again and click on the hyperlink. Let's create a new form and add to an existing transaction. In this running list, you will see all your transactions in your files. You may have none yet if you've never created a transaction, and that's okay. If that's the case and this is blank, you would not be able to use this option. You would need to start a new form and start a new transaction. However, let's pretend hypothetically we're creating this and we've already got a file started for the Flintstones. Here's their file. I can simply click on the circle radial button and I can either open the transaction or open the form. Let's go ahead and open the form. This now opens the form and will insert important data that I already have readily available in the Flintstones file under their details sections. We will discuss that in a little bit. However, I wanted to show you, notice this document already has information pre-filled in either from a previous transaction or from information I had set up in the details section. Go ahead and click Save and Exit. When you save and exit, because we opened into the transaction, it's going to land you back to the forms for this particular transaction and not in the forms section here on the left toolbar. That's okay. If you need to get back, you can click on the forms in your toolbar and it will land you exactly where you were. In your search bar, go ahead and type in 401 one more time. On the right side on each form are 3 menu dots. Select the menu dot. From here, you're going to have access to Preview, Start New, Download a blank document, or Print the blank document. These are great for when you're on the go and you need to write a transaction or write transactional forms and documents, maybe at the property. You can print these out right here. If you download, just remember each year the forms change. There are often changes throughout the year as well from the Forms Committee from the Tennessee Realtors. So I would not recommend downloading and or printing these documents in mass quantities. You would want to do them on the fly. However, if you weren't sure if this was the right document you needed, you can click Preview, and it'll give you a preview of this document before you open it. From the preview mode, you can also print, download, rename it, rotate it left, rotate it right, zoom in, or zoom out. Once complete, click Close. All right, next up is going to be Documents. You can either expand your toolbar to find out which document or button is for Documents, or if your toolbar is here and you know the box is Documents, you can click on the box. If you want to load a document into Transaction Desk, but not associate it with the transaction at this time, you can upload it to the Documents folder. Documents are things that do not allow you to type on them while in Transaction Desk, like you can type on a form. Documents would be something like the seller's disclosures that are listed on the MLS, affiliated business disclosures, maybe a plat map or restrictions that the other side is asking your client to initial. Those would be documents. You can upload them here into this document folder. Otherwise, you can upload them to transactional folders. Now remember I said you can add those to your widgets. There's a gauge here on the top left toolbar. Go ahead and click that dashboard button for me. Unlock your padlock. From here, I want you to find the one that says Upload, and it has the box with the up arrow. Click and drag that down into your screen. You can move it into any location that you like and lock your padlock. From here, go ahead and click on Upload. It's going to ask you to drag and drop files. You can either drag and drop or you can click and upload. Find the document that you'd like. We're going to select one of these. Okay, now I've uploaded this, but where did it go? Well, it wasn't assigned to a transaction. Let's go find it. Click on the documents on the left-hand side, click on Inbox folder, and from here, you can see if you can find the document that you had. Now, I had labeled this PCD. Notice there's a whole bunch of certificates and PCDs being uploaded in here. So you're like, what happened? How do I find this document? Well, you can sort this by the name, the date it was created, or the date it was last modified. If I select last modified, it's going to put the most recent download into the top of the list. From here, on the right-hand side in the menu bar, I can click Preview, Print, Download, delete the document, rename the document, send it to somebody, copy it or move it somewhere else. I can slice it up, meaning if there's multiple pages and I need to split them apart, or I can mark them up, meaning I can write on them. I can also send this document through Authentisign where there can be a signature added. And if I need to share this with somebody on a team, or maybe I'm co-listing or co-selling a property, I can share this with another agent internally in the office. Let's go ahead and click Preview and make sure it's the right document. As you can see, here's the seller's disclosure. Everything's good and ready to go. It just needed signatures. On the top, you're going to have another toolbar. You can copy this into the cloud, print, download, send to Authentisign. You can mark up, meaning write on it. You can slice this up, change the name, rotate left, rotate right, zoom in or zoom out. So very similar to the other toolbar we were just on. But what I'd like you to do is go ahead and click on Document Slicer tool. Now, in this document, you have a property condition disclosure, but you also have a confirmation of agency. Maybe we did not need this confirmation of agency. Simply click on this document and click Remove Pages by selecting the trash can on the top right. It's going to ask you, are you sure? Yes. Once you're done, you can click Save. You can save, or you can save as an additional document. I'm going to just simply save and overwrite it. It's given me a flag on the bottom to let me know this document has saved, so now I can close. Now if I were to open and preview this document, the confirmation of agency page is now removed from the document. Let's go ahead and try some on your own. All right, welcome back. What do you think? Not too bad? It's pretty easy once you do it over and over again. So practice makes perfect. What I recommend is create a transaction that you label as training. Like I have the Flintstones file. You can make as many mistakes as you'd like within that folder and that file, and it's okay because it can be deleted. Let's talk about establishing your settings and your branding within your transaction desk. Transaction desk provides several general program settings that affect all users of the system. Now, these systems and settings define how users see and interact with documents, checklists, forms, faxes, tasks that are assigned, emails, and maybe some broker review processes. Each office is going to operate a little different, so my screen may have some settings that your screen has not been set up with, but that's okay. If you need assistance, make sure you check in with your broker. They would be able to assist you as well, and they may need to update some of their broker settings on their broker dashboard. Let's go ahead and talk about these settings, because if you've been a user for a while, you may notice that the settings button is no longer in the right or left toolbar. The left toolbar here used to have a button on the bottom that said settings. It had a gear wheel. They have now moved that button to the top right corner. It's going to be over here. You have a help button, and then you also have the gray with the little, looks like a person, and then the shopping cart. So if you click on the gray circle with the little person, it's now going to give you settings and log out here. When you click on your settings bar, you're going to have a whole bunch of settings to click through. Let's talk about the program settings first. If you could, go ahead and click on Program Settings. In here, you're going to be able to configure your transactional settings, such as default views, sorting, displaying formats, and other transaction-specific settings for the entire office. Let's go ahead and expand transaction settings. You can do so by simply clicking on the toolbar. From here, you're going to see your transaction settings. Go ahead and set up the settings the way that you would like them. Meaning, when you're in a transaction, do you want to see all? Do you want to see just yours? Or do you want to just see files that are shared with you? How do you want your files and your transactions to sort? With these transactions, do you want them to last modified to be at the top and then descend from there? Do you want them to be filed and sorted by their name, their closing date? Choose the one that's applicable for you. Your default display is going to either be grid mode or list mode. I recommend grid mode if you like pictures. If you like a running list, choose list. You can always come back and change this setting later. If you need a cover sheet, you can keep the checkbox checked. If you like to use the wizard, which I recommend, leave the checkbox checked. And if you want a default PDF data import, you can check this box as well. Once you're done, click Update, and the settings will save. Go ahead and head on down into the document settings. Now when dealing with documents, when you're in the documents box here, how do you want to view those documents? Do you want them to sort by default? Do you want to drag and drop them around? And then how do you want them to be labeled? by their name descending, ascending, etc. When you're done, click Update. Heading on into the checklist settings. In here, select the appropriate drop-down menu options that you would like for your business. When you're done, click Update. Head on down to Forms. When you're in a form and you're typing on the form, do you want the forms to default sort by their name descending, when they were last created, then descend, or when they were last modified? You can also choose the font color that you'd like. All right, from the font color, you can choose your font style and your font color. Now notice you have a lot of different colors you can choose for your forms. I recommend using black or blue. These other colors are often hard to see, especially if you're working with somebody who is colorblind. They may not be able to see those colors. Your default size I recommend setting to 9. Anything larger sometimes bleeds off of the text boxes available on the form, and 6 and 8 often are too small to see. You also want to make sure your autosave button is checked. For those of us who used to remember Word where there was no autosave, we used to have a saying that said, save, save, save often. The reason for that is because if you don't save, all your hard work goes away. So make sure autosave is enabled, because you never know when you're working on a transaction and then you need to navigate off the screen to go complete another task or maybe take a phone call, and accidentally maybe the program shuts down. All the work you had on those documents or those forms are now gone. You can also check off create a copy when emailing. I receive 1 million emails, so I keep that one toggled off, but you can toggle it on. When you're done, click Update. Many of our offices don't use fax anymore. We do scans, but if you still happen to have fax settings, you can set this up as well. Come on down into your task settings. Tasks are set up sometimes by the broker, but can also be set up by the agent. Go ahead and select all of the settings the way that you would like them. And do you want to have a summarized daily reminder for all of the tasks that are due for this transaction? If your office is not working in a paperless system, this may be something you want to set up for yourself. This will send you daily reminders of when those tasks are due, such as when the earnest money is due, when's the home inspection repair proposal supposed to be sent. Have you sent over the notification for a 3-day or a 14-day notification to let the seller know that they've completed the required tasks in the RF 401? If not, you can set up these reminders and the time of the day, and you can show any completed tasks as well. When you're done, click Update. Your email settings. When you have an attachment in the email that you're sending over, do you want it to default to send as a link or to send as an attachment? I recommend to send as a link, but you can choose whichever is appropriate to you. You want to default to the link to allow editing for forms, and that's why I always send them as a link. So when would that be applicable? Well, when you send over a property condition disclosure, like the RF 203, you can actually send this over via email, and I'll show you how to do it, where the seller client can actually type on the form and click all the buttons. What? Yep, they can click the buttons. You do not need to add checkboxes or radio buttons over it. They can simply check all the buttons just as you can on your end. They can click save, and then you can take it into Authentisign and send it with the entire packet. But in order to do that, you need to have it in as a link. When you're done, click Update. Head on down to your Authentisign settings. Go ahead and set the settings how you would like them. For transactional documents, you want to place the completed documents in a new folder, or do you want to set them in a root folder? You can set this up either way. This is a new setting that was also added back in March. The new folder categorizes each of the signings in their own respective folder. Otherwise, the root folder, it will just throw all of the signature pages into one folder. And I'll show you where you can find those. When you're done, click Update. Most don't need this document's printer driver set up either, but if you do, you can read through the handbook or through these settings to access all of that. If you're a broker, you'll have a broker file review button. You can turn off the review function. You can activate yourself as a staff reviewer, listing reviewer, closer reviewer, or broker reviewer. Once you're done, click Update. Now let's talk about markup settings. When you go to markup, meaning you're typing on a form, what size do you want them to mark up with? I recommend 9. And what font do you want selected? Try to choose a font that's similar to the font that you chose on your form settings up here. Okay, when you're done, click Update. All right, let's go ahead and talk about setting up notifications. That's our next section. Navigate to your settings on the top right and click on your notifications button. In here, you're going to have several different options. To receive notifications for document review requests or when a new transaction is created, or to be notified when a participant accesses a transaction in the system, you're going to click on the General button. This is going to be for your managing brokers or your principal brokers. When document reviews are requested, do you want to be notified? You can select all of the appropriate options for you and your office. Same goes for the tasks. When tasks are assigned, do you want to be notified as the broker? Teams and share. Do you want to be notified when share transactions are created or deleted? Check the buttons that apply. And for the super users, aka your managing brokers or your principal brokers, here are your options as well. This is simply what do you want to be notified by? How often do you want to be notified when your agents are doing stuff in Transaction Desk? It does become a little overwhelming, so I don't recommend setting too many notifications because your email will get bogged down. All right, that's it for Transaction Desk Basic, Settings, and Dashboard. I'll see you at the next section.